What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, we have new reports that Nintendo had a massive week last week during like the Black Friday, Cyber Monday kind of weekend there. It looks like they may have had their best week like ever for the Switch during that Black Friday time, and it's something else. We're going to talk about that today and what that could mean for the Switch going forward. And we finally got some new Super Nintendo and new Nintendo games announced for the online service for the Switch that we're going to talk about here as well. Nintendo told us about 6 new games we can look forward to, which is good, and it's actually a good lineup. We'll talk about that. And then Halo Reach came out and immediately saw massive success on Steam. We're going to go over that today as well. As always, guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure the like button, it does help out, and get subscribed so you can stay up to date on all the gaming news going on in the gaming world. Little subscribe button down below with the bell icon next to it. Go ahead and hit that as well. That way you can stay up to date and catch any of the new videos we do here. We do this every weekday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, and we're going to start today with Alien Isolation. Now, Feral Interactive was nice enough to send over a copy of it for me to take a look at, and I've been playing it for the past couple of days, and I noticed that the game itself looks really good. Like, the port is very well done. Of course, they also did a Grid, and I like that port as well because they even incorporated the GameCube controller. A lot of care put into these ports that they're doing. Well, Digital Foundry obviously did their usual analysis, and they came to an interesting conclusion. Apparently, the Switch version looks better than the PlayStation 4 version. Now, of course, this is also separated by about 5 years of time since the Alien Isolation PS4 version was back in 2014, whereas, of course, the Switch version came out today at $35, digital only. Would have liked to have seen a physical copy at $40 because I assume they're going to charge a little more for cartridge costs and all of that. But right now, digital only. Great game, though. I really like Alien Isolation. And according to Digital Foundry, while the resolution on the Switch is dynamic and will shift below 1080p at times because of some of the newer anti-aliasing techniques that Feral Interactive have access to, it actually makes the image quality of the Switch version better, which is a very interesting thing to see happen, and they had plenty of examples, and yeah, even when I was playing it, I said, wow, this looks really, really good, and it just shows that the developers or the companies that are porting these things can do different techniques to make the game look better, and as long as the Switch will cooperate with them, they come up with a really good-looking game. But I'm happy to see that Alien Isolation is a quality port, and hey, Feral Interactive, they're doing some big things over there with some of their Switch ports. Also, we had a firmware update for the Switch, 9.1.0, and stability? Okay, sure, stability. It also did one other thing as well. It did make it so that animation and the colored animation for the Joy-Con controllers that you attach has returned. So, you put a red one on, clicks, oh, it's red, that's cool. They took that away for some reason before in a firmware update, and no one really knows why that is. I think they did some updates and it just broke it, and then they have fixed it just now with the newest update. So if you put your Switch into your dock or something, or it connects back online, and maybe you have it wired up like I do with your dock, and it just asks, hey, would you like to do this firmware update? It's nothing major, but that animation that changes colors depending on your Joy-Con controller will return, which a lot of people actually kind of missed that. That was mentioned quite a bit. So good to see that Nintendo got back on it, fixed it, and it's back to normal. I got the purple and orange controllers, so I'd like to see those, of course, have those different colors represented there. No other major changes, though. We're still waiting for another big update, I guess, that will bring new features. Nothing major here, though. Also, for any of you horror fans out there, maybe you like Outlast or Outlast 2. I like the Outlast series. I think it's very, very well done for horror games, and it does generally scare you at times. Like, it is pretty scary when you're playing through it, and they do some jump scares, but a lot of times it's more or less from different perspectives, and it kind of reminded me a bit of the Condemned series from the early days of the 360. And I really liked that first Condemned game. I thought that was really well done. Well, it looks like they're going to try something new. This is Red Barrels, of course, who did the first 2, and after putting out a press release, they have announced Outlast Trials that is going to be a cooperative multiplayer experience. Now, they say you can go through it with just one person, but you can also play with up to 3 friends, and the issue here is, I think anyway, horror games are better played alone because it gives you that sense that you are by yourself. That is the whole point, whereas if you have other people around you and you're communicating to them quite a bit, right? Like you're saying, hey, I'm over here, look out for, I don't know, I just ran into a monster here, be careful in the cornfields or something. It becomes less scary because you know you have essentially backup, right? You have people around you to help you. Whereas when it's more isolating, that's when it becomes very scary and can kind of, make you be on edge a bit. So I'll be curious to see how they pull this off. But hey, Red Barrels, they've done a good job with the first two, and we'll see how they can meet that challenge. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start with Nintendo's week last week. Okay, so we had a report from Business Wire that came out, and the sales were so massive that based on internal information they had received, they had to put something out about this press release, and it's pretty big. So you can see some of the stuff here from Business Wire, but they reported that 830,000 Switch units were sold last week. And this brings the total in the US, this is all just United States for reporting here, to 17.5 million units sold. And that is massive. These are like record-breaking numbers that are being reported here, as this appears to be their best selling week for the Switch, like completely for Thanksgiving week. That is big stuff there. And of course, Nintendo is going into their first holiday with the Switch Lite, and they are expecting big numbers with a cheaper system. Now, from there, they also talked about different individual games. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, for example, 8.5 million units, which is insane for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, by the way. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is at 8 million, so it's not too far behind Mario Kart 8 there. Super Mario Odyssey is at 6.5 million, and then Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, which probably sold more than it should have, is at 1.5 million. Now, we just talked about 830,000 units in the US alone selling, but now I want to move over to the Famitsu sales charts, like back to back with this, so we can get an idea of how things were in Japan as well. Here's actually the top 10 games as you're seeing here. It starts with Pokemon Sword and Shield at the top, 275,959, which isn't bad for its third week, only dropping 28%. Not too bad there. We did have a new release, couple of new releases actually. SD Gundam G Generation released on the PS4 and the Switch, with the PS4 version selling a bit better at 64,000 units and the Switch version behind that at 45,000 units. That could be for a couple of reasons. Maybe just the fans of the series were over on the PS4 at the time, and that's what they decided to pick it up on. And then below that, 13 Sentinels, that's at 34,000 units. Then we have Luigi's Mansion at 5, Ring Fit Adventure at 6, Minecraft at 7, Mario and Sonic Olympic games there at 8, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at 9, and then Super Smash Bros. Ultimate at 10. Moving over to the hardware, this is something crazy here. The Nintendo Switch, 186,763 units in Japan alone, and that's actually up from the week prior that was 179,000 units, and because now the system has reached 10.4 million units, after this past week, it has actually outsold the PlayStation 3, which had sold 10.25 million units, meaning that in less than 3 years, the Switch has already outsold the PlayStation 3 in Japan on its own. That is insane, by the way, to be that far ahead in just under 3 years. Of course, came out at the beginning of March, and we're at the beginning of December. This system still has several months before we get to that point. PlayStation 4 was below that, 8,626. I mean, you can just see the difference between the Switch and then the next system being the PlayStation 4 in sales. The 3DS below that, 1,580 units. Xbox One actually had a massive jump, by the way, 891. That's interesting. I wonder why that is. And then the PlayStation Vita at 26. And then going beyond those sales charts real quick, another piece of sales information is that the Switch is launching in China December 10th. We had the announcement the other day, and they are partnering, of course, with Tencent. We already know that. They had a full presentation with even Miyamoto making a pre-recorded appearance there, talking about Mario and kind of introducing him essentially to the crowd there. Now, the Switch is going to launch with New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, which is an interesting one, I guess, to throw in there. But I mean, it's Mario, and it's an easy game, I guess, to put in there for the audience in China. And then they're also going to have some third-party help with Ubisoft, even releasing some games like Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle. Now, China is an interesting, I guess, section for them to sell in. The audience there really likes cell phones and cell phone games. So you figure the Switch probably has a better chance than the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, which have not found a lot of momentum there. But the Switch does, I mean, it's a tablet. If you really look at it, it is a tablet. So it does kind of blend in technically to that sector. So it's going to be interesting to see how it sells there. It does appear to be the same price there as it is everywhere else at just about $300. And even the games are actually selling in the mid-40s. So they're a little cheaper there. for the games that are coming out, and we'll see how it does there. A lot of investors and analysts are hoping that it's like an exponential jump. I think it'll be a bit slower out of the gate, but it could pick up depending on how things go and what games actually get released there and, moved over and localized. But all of this is kind of adding up to a really big holiday for Nintendo, a really big fiscal year. It's very possible they could touch 20 million units this fiscal year, mostly because a lot of analysts, a lot of reports are happening now. A lot of analysts are putting different things out there, talking about this quarter we're in now possibly producing 10 million sales for Switch units. So we might have 10 million units just moving throughout this quarter, and that would put the Switch past the Xbox One in less than 3 years. It'd still have, again, a couple of months before it hits its 3-year mark after this holiday, and that would take place right at the beginning of March, which is insane for the Switch. That is very, very fast, and we just talked about the Switch possibly catching the Wii, doing over 100 million units the other day, and with its current momentum, how much it's selling, releasing in new areas and regions like China, I mean, it could. It already has the $200 system out there, and who's to say they don't have other systems planned under this Switch quote-unquote umbrella? It's an interesting time for Nintendo, but this could be their most successful time ever right now, and that's without even like the 3DS being back up and running with another system next to it, having one system but a family of systems with that system, a brand with a family of systems. Maybe that really is Nintendo's key to success here, is to do that. It's working for the Switch so far. Next up, let's talk about some Super Nintendo games and some Nintendo games, as there was an announcement that we are getting an update to that Nintendo Switch Online application. Specifically, we'll have a couple of Super Nintendo games and a couple of original Nintendo games added to the library. That's going to be taking place December 12th. So, of course, if you already have the online service, they'll just be added. Your app will have to update, so you'll just have to make sure it's connected to the internet to get those games and update. And we still also don't know if there are going to be any special editions, those SP editions. I'll be curious if any of the Super Nintendo games transform when that happens. But let's take a look at the games. They put the tweet out, and they also put out a kind of a large trailer showcasing some of these games. Star Fox 2 is one of them, and then Super Punch-Out!, Kirby Superstar, Breath of Fire 2, and then on the NES we have Journey to Silius and Crystallis. I'm not as familiar with Crystallis. I'm interested to go back through that one. I remember playing it a little bit when we used to test systems back in the day at the different stores, but Journey to Silius I actually really liked. And then Star Fox 2, of course, was originally just used pretty recently to sell the Super Nintendo Classic, but now it's making its way to the Switch. Super Punch-Out! I'm going to play quite a bit of. I like Super Punch-Out!. Kirby Superstar is a great one if you like Kirby. Definitely a good one to pick up. I'm actually surprised Dreamland 3 made it before Superstar, but hey, now it's about to be on there. And then Breath of Fire 2 is, I think, better than the original Breath of Fire, and of course, that's already there anyway. So if you spent the time playing through the original Breath of Fire, you're probably pretty excited to see Breath of Fire 2 showing up here. I think Star Fox 2 is the one you should check out, especially if you did not grab the Super Nintendo Classic, which I know there are still a lot of people who didn't pick it up, even though it wasn't as hard to find at the time, and it got restocked quite a bit. Still, though, to have these games show up on the Switch, which of course, portable system versus not being a portable system with that Super Nintendo Classic is big. So 6 games over the last 3 months, essentially. We had a 3-month window where there was nothing, and now 6 games. So still, I guess, technically 2 games per month. Okay. I think I'd rather have 2 games per month still rather than a large drop of 6 games, but I guess technically it works out. It's just, let's say we had Punch-Out! Dropped in October, I'd have been playing Punch-Out! This whole time, right? That's just a way to look at it. But I guess if they continue to basically give us 2 games per month, 24 games per year, that's not bad. They still have to work on some other stuff on this online service, though, and I don't think having these kind of games technically make up for the fact that you still can't message your friends, and they still don't even have themes on the system or even folders. So we'll see what happens there. Oh, and one other thing. This is actually better than Nintendo Japan, what they are releasing in Japan. It was weird to see that, because usually it goes the opposite. Japan gets the cool stuff, right, for the online service when they get some interesting games like Fire Emblem released, and then we get a couple of weird games. Opposite this time. They actually even got 2 less games than us. So, hey, There you go. Nintendo of America had a better announcement than I guess what was in Japan. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Halo Reach. It is now out. If you have Xbox Game Pass, you can just go download it as part of the Master Chief Collection. I believe the multiplayer is free, technically, with Game Pass, whereas I believe you have to buy the campaign. I actually just picked it up on PC, and then I just downloaded the update for the Master Chief Collection for Halo Reach to do that. But it's good. It's very good. In fact, it's so well optimized. I'm trying it on lesser hardware like a GTX 1050, for example, which is a very common card to come in, I'll say, lower to mid-range laptops. Like the 1050 is being put in $400 to $500 laptops now, and it ran that thing at like over 100 frames per second. I have that overpowered laptop that has the 144 hertz screen that's actually getting used with Halo Reach, which is really, really cool to see. Of course, if you have a stronger video card, like say even a GTX 970, which is old now, that still gets 4K 60. You get like a 2070, 4K 60 easy, right? Much more than that, even if you have a higher refresh rate for a screen. So well optimized, great online, a lot of fun. It's Halo Reach, it's back. So of course, here comes Halo onto Steam, which is already weird to see, and it does very, very well. Jumps to the top of the sales charts immediately, and actually took over in one of the top three spots with 161,000 people playing concurrently at peak. And even now, it'll kind of jump into the top three occasionally over things like Destiny 2. Can't seem to beat out something like Counter-Strike, which has like 600 some odd thousand people, or even Dota 2. But those two games are pretty much always the top two games on Steam. It was just really funny to see Halo, which obviously a Microsoft property, but finally making its way to Steam, and then the Steam community completely embraces this game and is very, very excited about it. The PC community is having a blast with this game. So am I, and I'm going to keep trying it on some other hardware. I want to try it on like some even older video cards, maybe even older laptop chipsets or something, just to see how far we can push this thing. It doesn't work on like a GPD Win, for example, because the one I have doesn't have enough RAM. I think you still need at least like 8 gigabytes of RAM, but I have some older 9 series like mobile chips and some laptops and stuff that is much weaker than chips coming out in laptops now at budget prices. So might be worth to check it out there just to see, because I still have questions about if like my computer can play this thing. Most likely it probably can. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Electro Entertainment, saying, "I'm glad I was born in the late 90s and grew up in the early 2000s onwards. Seeing how technology progressed by playing handheld video game consoles was definitely an amazing time to be alive. The Game Boy Advance and Nintendo DS, PSP days used to be so amazing back then." And then you go on to talk about cell phones and kids and everything. But I really wanted to focus on that opening part, because I thought about this when I read the comment. I said, you know, going from the Game Boy to now, there was this amazing point in time where we were playing these games. It was already weird enough to play them portably away from a TV when the Game Boy came out. But then it slowly evolved to the point where once it got to where we had 3D environments with even like the DS, the Game Boy Advance is still kind of primitive, but when like the DS and the PSP came out and we were playing these full, like basically console style games, even like Metroid, when they had that demo, I was blown away, the DS. When you could start swinging the camera around, you were in this 3D environment, it was crazy. And then, of course, the PSP had some awesome games. We had like full-on Final Fantasy, like Crisis Core, and that looked amazing. And there were just so many really good experiences. But that jump, we talk about the jump from 2D to 3D in like home consoles, but that 2D to 3D jump essentially in handheld was, I think, just as impressive. It was really cool to see that, because you had it like in the palm of your hand, but it was this massive world. Now we're playing Witcher 3 on the Switch. It's crazy. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go to here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it's Halo Reach on PC or Xbox. Let me know if you're playing that one, or that lineup that Nintendo announced for the online service. I know the online service itself is still pretty far behind and lacking, but what do you think about the games that are getting released there? Any ones you're really looking forward to? And then how about Nintendo's performance last week with sales, and where do you see them getting to by the end of this year? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.